Well, and Admiral, you read just military strategy, military history, going all the way back to the art of war, thousands of years ago. The past 6 months, of course, started with absolute hell for the Israelis, but you can't help but look at what's happened and think that the Gazans, that Hamas got exactly what they wanted. Israelis coming in, killing a lot of civilians, getting more than a black eye across the world, having younger Americans turn against them. The question is, what do we do from this point? I'm sure you agree with me that Hamas has to be destroyed as a fighting force. I also, not to put words in your mouth, agree with me that 10,000, 15,000 more Gazans, civilians, can't die to achieve that means. So how do you do it?
Well, militarily, let's start with in my view, perhaps hopeful sign that David just mentioned of the pulling out of massive troops. And I'll add two other factors that went into that decision. Certainly, the U.S. pressure is starting to have real effect here. Number two, 6 months into a war, an army like Israel's, which is based largely on reserves. They called up every reserve they had, understandably, immediately in October. Those folks are the backbone of the Israeli economy. They're the butchers, bakers, candlestick makers. They need to get back to running shops and cyber offices and the entire office and economy of Israel. So they've got to start putting people back to work. And then third and finally, if you look at this, those Israeli forces have been in intense combat for 4 months, and they are going to need a break, a rest and refit. I think it's kind of a combination of those things. But here's what I at least read into it, again, talking to my sources, just as you and others have been doing. The hostage deal is closing, and good sign is the presence in Cairo of our CIA director, Ambassador Bill Burns, Arabic speaker, former ambassador to Jordan, a former ambassador to Moscow as well, a master diplomat, as well as currently plugged in at the highest levels of all of these governments. So I think we're moving toward that. And a hostage deal, a ceasefire of some length, let's call it 45 days, and then you can really flood the zone with humanitarian aid. In that window falls the construction of the U.S. pier, which really unleashes a huge amount of aid moving in. The Houthis are striking less in the Red Sea. Things are trending somewhat positively, but I'll close with a cautionary note, Joe. Hanging out there is the Iranian response to the attack on their embassy, their consulate. I believe a justifiable one. Iran certainly will respond in the next 5-10 days, probably go after an Israeli consulate. Iran, however, not looking to widen the war. So I think if you look into the future, there's a narrow window here where we may be able to move toward some form of a ceasefire that could be built upon.